Hello everyone. Happy, can you hear me? Happy Thursday. I hope everyone is looking forward to their last day of work, hopefully for a lot of you, or last day of school. I just wanted to kind of go through lesson 8. We are almost there after today. I guess we just have lesson 9, 10, 11, 12, so 4 more lessons. You guys are doing great. I know you're bearing with me. Sorry about the craziness of last night's video. Okay, let's get right to it. So today is about understanding and establishing 3 things. The difference between ego, brain, and then our truth, our higher self, basically. Now, I think it's a process for everyone because there's no cookie cutter way of explaining, like, when you hear this or feel this is your ego, this is your truth, this is your brain. So I think it's going to look differently for everyone, and it's up to everyone in their own individual soulful journey to understand and pay attention to what happens for them, and what each voice or sound or feeling, where it comes from, what it means to them, how it makes them feel. I think it's a lifelong, I shouldn't say lifelong journey. I think if your intention is to understand the difference, then I think it will really start to show up for you. But I'm really hoping that this teaching or this understanding from my learning will help. So let's get clear on what the brain is. Very, very, very important. A lot of spiritual teachers will tell you, Andrew Martin does a really good job of explaining it, that the brain is just a computer. Its sole job is just to compute back out what you put into it. Now, things about the brain. Oopsies. Things about the brain. It hates unpredictability, and it hates things that aren't familiar. So I always explain to people, the brain is like living in the neck up, okay? And the way I view it is like, so I guess if I'm explaining, well, it doesn't matter. So the way I view it is like an energy block. But I don't know what those shapes are. So it's like flat here. It looks like a 90-degree kind of thing, but it slopes, basically. Make sense? And so the way I see it energetically is a lot of us, especially those people who live in high stress kind of environments or jobs, or people who've experienced a lot of trauma, who are kind of disconnected, and it doesn't mean trauma necessarily, but people who are disconnected from their body. And just like me, I lived in my neck up for a really long time. So the way I view it is, it's like this. There's a block here. The brain can't predict what the future holds. And so when we're looking at goal setting or our hopes or our dreams, or something comes forward, the brain's like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, that's not familiar. It's not really predictable. I don't know. So it will launch us kind of back into our experiences. And within our life experiences up until this point, our brain has cataloged certain patterns and messaging. And so the brain lives in a very fear-based place, right? And so it will launch us back to there. And so that's what I often kind of explain to, especially a lot of my clients, if they have something that's coming up for them in terms of like, what job do I do? Or what job do I take? Or do I move? Or do I make this jump? All of these kind of things. And so basically, you have to first acknowledge, one, are you decision making from this neck up place, this brain? Because remember, it can't see past here. And so because it can't, it makes you uncomfortable. It puts you into that fear-based place. And no one wants to make a soul decision or something that is going to benefit them from a fear-based place. And so it'll launch you back into all of these old beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, and these patterns that it's programmed. Keep in mind that when we come here, we get amnesia. Right? Our brain's swiped. So our brain in this body, in this life, only knows what it's been programmed from day one. Okay? It's just a computer. It's just our database of the things people have said to us, the experiences we've had, the messaging we got from our external world, society, media, all of that kind of stuff. And so it's really important to pay attention to what is coming up and are those old messages. So now, after a lot of practice, I'm able to recognize, okay, my brain is really active right now, and it's launching me back into this old pattern of, fear of failure, of not being good enough. And you can apply it, it's applicable to anything, to like working on your money story. When you're kind of navigating your relationship with money and really working on that, your brain is like, like that's too scary. Like, are we going to have enough money? Should I make that jump? What does that look like? And so it's really important to kind of pay attention. And then the beauty of it is you're in control. You're in the driver's seat. You have the power. It's not about pushing the brain away. It's not about getting angry at it or disconnecting from it or feeling like it's an enemy. It's just a part of who you are, and it's necessary because it does a lot of amazing things. And then what I can do now, and what I'm sure a lot of people can, is you just sit back and you become the observer and you say, okay, brain, okay, I get where you're coming from. And oftentimes that's stuff you've already worked on. And so it's just old programming coming up. And sometimes it represents itself to give you the opportunity to remember and be like, oh no, like I worked through that. I've been there, done that. That's just old stuff. And so it's like you see it, you see the bubble of the old stuff, you wish it well and you send it on its way, and then you realign and connect. Make sense? Now, the other thing is our ego. Our ego is always loud and obnoxious. It's the thing that when you're standing in the mirror that says you're ugly, you're fat, you're not good enough. It's the loud voice. And oftentimes people think of that as our true self, and it's not. Our ego plays a very beautiful role. Matt Kahn wrote, I think, a few books you can look at through Hay House or just chapters or whatever online. Amazon has it. He has a really good book called Everything's Here to Help You. And then he talks a lot about the ego and how oftentimes we come from places of ego, right? We always do. We work from that. Our ego wants to be righteous. It wants to be right. It wants to be in control. It wants to feel good. It wants to be seen. It's all of those kind of things, right? And so in conversation, a lot of times in conflict, our defensiveness will always come from that ego. It wants to be right. It wants to be in control. How dare you see me in a different way? And so, I mean, it's extremely important to really understand where and how your ego comes up. And talking about yesterday is ownership. I think when you get to a really good place to differentiate, like what's the brain, what's that old patterning, how's my computer going off, and then what's the ego, it brings you into a real rounded place around ownership. You know, my husband and I can have these conversations where I'm like, you know what, I'm totally in ego right now and I'm not going to respond to you because I can just hear things firing. I can hear my ego stepping forward being like, no, you're wrong. I'm right. How dare you, tell me I'm being however. And so I'm able to, and so is he, to be like, you know what, I'm really in ego right now. Nothing I have to say is going to be helpful. So I'm going to take a few minutes. And of course the ego hates that, depending on kind of your style around conflict. Some people need to process. Some people are like, no, I'm going to deal with it now. And then your ego steps forward. But I will tell you, it's never healthy to argue or to have conversations from an ego place. But our ego is just as much part of us as our brain. So again, it's not the enemy. It's understanding how it works. More importantly, how it works for you. What are the big things, the biggest things it says to you on a daily basis? And then how can you come from that place of really loving on it and understanding and developing this relationship? I mean, I parented from ego for a long time because I was really in my dark place, or like my dark shadow. I hadn't understood that fully in a lot of ways. And my ego was just coming up all the time, and like, that's no place. But it just happens. It happens every moment of every day. It's a choice, to believe the bullshit our brain is putting out at us and be like, oh, we're just, to feel that's a choice, eventually when you understand it. And it's a choice to move from ego all the time. And so I really encourage you to kind of learn the differences. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is my jam, my favorite. And again, it's taken almost a lifetime to understand what my truth is. But the way I explain it to someone is, think of something that you really love. I always say this, and people think I should probably say my daughter or my husband, but I love Cora. She's my dog. She's my soul dog, and we've had a lot of lifetimes together, and she means the world to me, and she understands me like nobody else, so I love her. So when I say I love her, or I feel it in my body, I feel it in my heart and my stomach, in this whole center, this heart center into my stomach, basically. That's the same thing as like where gut instinct comes from, all of that. This is our intuition. Inside is kind of like, again, the pillar of light. That's our truth. That's where I connect with it. When I say I love Cora with like this righteous amount of like unconditional love, I don't think it. It's not something that I like feel in my head and my brain, right? It's something that I feel. And we know that as human beings. So why do we make decisions from a place of in our head and our brain and racking it and our brain starts spiraling and spinning? No, recognize it, observe it. Whoa, I kind of view like thought bubbles, like a comic. And I'm like, okay, got it. That's what's coming up for me. I own that. I see it. I love on it. Now I drop inside my body, and what do I feel? The intuition is so quiet. It's just this inner knowing. And I invite all of you to go on a quest to really understand how it helps you, because it's one of the most beautiful gifts that we came here with. It's our soul connection. It's our connection to others. It's our connection to self. It's our connection to spirit, God, the universe. And so I think it's super important to go on that journey for yourself. And so I always tell people very basic exercises. Start by doing it. One thing, sorry, it's my eye. 2 ways you can do it is, one, intuitively eating. Right? We all get that like kind of feeling in the day, like, oh, I should have water. It's not our brain being like, you should have water. It's that inner knowing, our body's taking care and saying, okay, I need to be replenished. I need to be filled. I need to be grounded, and I need that water intake. Or that knowing, inner knowing of your body being like, I need a salad. I need some vegetables. It's been 11 days and you haven't had any, solid, good, salads or meals or greenery. It's that inner knowing. So start with intuitively eating. When you think of something, you're trying to decide on a meal, think and feel feel what that feels like. What is your body wanting? What is it drawn to? What's going to fill you and what's going to be nourishing? The other way you can do that, like water, food, all the kind of things, because we often override it, right? It's like, should I have that beer? Probably not. I can feel into my body. I'm like, okay, I know it's been busy. I'm tired. I wanted this. Like, that's not really going to help me. So we often override it, right? But it's really important for people who are struggling with illness or any type of health issue, inflammation, anything like that in your body, any disease, because that's how you really want to align and really honor and treat your body with respect, right? So the other way is like things and like places. If your friends invite you to something or you're invited to some party or whatever, close your eyes, feel into that. Allow yourself to walk through what that would be like to go and say yes. And what does it feel like being there? What does it feel like in your body? Feel it. Are you feeling filled? Do you see yourself like smile? Is it something that you're really, it aligns with you? Or when you close your eyes, is it better to just say, you know what, this is just not for me this time. Thank you for inviting me. Those are kind of ways that you can use. You have this inner compass. You have this beautiful channel to all the wisdom and the answers in your world, in the world, and you have this wisdom inside of your body. So it's just learning to navigate between those three things, and it's really helped me. And it's something that I've been in search for many, many years. I remember a long time trying to be like, what's that voice in my ear? Is that me? Is that who I am? Is that my intuition? What is that? Is that ego? And so over the years, it's evolved for me. But it took the intention of being like, I want to understand me more, and I want to understand who I am and how all these different amazing, cool friggin' parts of like my spirit body and my body and my brain, how does that all come together and make up who I am? And how does that work for me? And how can I utilize it to my advantage? So guys, that concludes lesson 8. So I really hope that, I'd love to hear kind of some of your things. How does ego come up for you? How do you feel that intuition, that connection to self, that alignment, that truth? Anyways, I will stop talking. I hope you all have a great day. Happy Friday, and sending you guys lots of love. Bye.